Right now, there's a huge political firestorm brewing in Washington, and at the center of it all is a single, fatal missile strike in the Caribbean. But here's the thing, this story isn't just about one strike, it's about two, and the entire event was caught on video, a video the public isn't being allowed to see.
So, the big question is, why? Why all the secrecy? There's a video out there that could answer a lot of questions, but it's being kept under wraps. And because of that, a massive debate has erupted over government transparency, the rules of war, and what this controversial anti-drug campaign is really all about.
You can see the tension playing out at the very highest levels. On one side, you have the president, who sounds pretty open about it, saying whatever they have will certainly release, no problem. But then, on the other side, you've got the Pentagon, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is way more guarded, just saying, we are reviewing it right now. That disagreement right there is at the very heart of this whole thing.
Okay, so to really get what's going on, we need to rewind. Let's go back to the day this all happened and piece together what we know about the attack.
So September 2nd unfolds in two very distinct phases. First, there's an initial missile strike on a boat that was allegedly smuggling drugs. But then, after that first explosion, a second missile is fired at the very same target. And it's that second strike that's causing all the controversy.
In that first missile strike, 11 people were killed, a devastating number. But the attack and the story, it wasn't over yet. That's because there were two survivors from that first blast, and they were then killed in the second strike. This is the one detail that has just ignited so much outrage and raised some really serious legal questions. And the context here is absolutely critical. According to reports, these two people weren't, fighting back or anything. They were apparently just trying to climb back onto the wreckage of their boat when that second missile hit. This detail changes everything. So of course, the very next question is, who gave the order for that second strike? Well, this is where the stories start to completely fall apart, and it turns into a classic Washington blame game. Then, the Washington Post drops this absolute bombshell. An anonymous source claims that Defense Secretary Hegseth gave a verbal order before the first missile was even fired to just take out everyone on board. I mean, what an explosive thing to allege.
Well, Secretary Hegseth's response was, as you can imagine, swift and furious. He called the whole report patently ridiculous and said it was a deliberate attempt to paint a cartoon version of him and the decisions being made.
So who do you believe? Hegseth is pointing the finger at Navy Admiral Frank Bradley, the guy leading the mission, saying he had the authority to make that call. But after a closed-door briefing on Capitol Hill, lawmakers came out and said Admiral Bradley told them he was not ordered to leave any survivors. It's a flat-out contradiction, and it points to a major breakdown somewhere in the chain of command.
To really understand why this strike even happened in the first place, we kind of need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. This wasn't some random one-off event. It's actually part of a much larger, much more aggressive campaign. The administration has a very specific name for what it's doing. It's a war on narco-terrorists. And the language they're using here is really important. By labeling alleged smugglers this way, and by calling their cargo tantamount to chemical weapons, they're building a case to justify a full-on military response. And Secretary Hegseth has been crystal clear about this policy. This quote pretty much lays out the whole doctrine. If they decide you're part of this network, they will find you and they will sink you. It's about as hardline as it gets. And the numbers prove this policy is being put into action. That September 2nd incident, it's just one of 22 strikes just like it, which have killed at least 87 people. But here's the real kicker. For all these operations, the Pentagon has yet to release any public evidence that any of these boats were actually carrying drugs. So, after looking at the incident and the conflicting stories, where does that leave us? Well, honestly, it leaves us with way more questions than answers. This whole controversy has really exposed some deep divisions and raised some fundamental issues that nobody seems to have an answer for yet. I mean, think about it. We still don't have answers to the most basic questions. What were those survivors actually doing? Was that second strike even legal? And where's the actual proof behind this entire anti-drug campaign? These are the questions right at the center of this whole debate.
Let's go back to those two survivors for a minute. Sources who've apparently seen the video say they were waving their hands. But what does that really mean? Were they surrendering? Were they desperately calling for help? Or were they trying to wave off another attack? How you interpret that one simple action is absolutely critical. And that brings us to maybe the most serious question of all, the one that legal experts are now debating out in the open.
Was targeting and killing people you knew were survivors of a previous strike a lawful military engagement? Or does that cross a very serious line into a potential war crime? Targeting people who are considered, in legal terms, out of the fight.
Which brings us right back to where we started, that secret video. It could potentially answer all of these questions. It could show us what the survivors were really doing. It could give us the context for that second strike. But as long as it stays hidden from the public, we're all left with one final, really unsettling question. Without the evidence, who gets to decide what the truth is?